Good afternoon. I'm Roxana Robinson, and I've been invited to read a poem today by the National Willa Cather Center for National Poetry Month, which is this month, April 2020. I'm going to read a poem called In Media Vita, and the poem takes its title from a Gregorian chant, which begins, In media vitae in morte sumus, which means in the middle of life we are in death. And the reason I've chosen this poem is because Willa Cather does something gorgeous in her writing and her fiction often, which is to create a scene of extraordinary vitality and richness to do with the natural world, the landscape, and the people who live on it. And the poem that this made me think of this poem made me think of an incident in her novel called O Pioneers, in which there's a young French-Canadian farmer named Amédée Baptiste. And Amédée is young, he's married, and he and his wife have their first child. He's well-to-do for this farming community. He owns a lot of land, and he's just bought a new piece of farm equipment, and he and the whole community, because they all do things in groups to help each other out, the whole community are helping him gather in his wheat harvest on this day. And he begins the day with such excitement and such joy at his new son and the landscape and the wheat harvest that he's bringing in. But he's ill to begin with, and as the day goes on, he becomes sicker and sicker. And in the afternoon, he's carried off the field, and early the next morning, he dies of appendicitis. So Cather, although she creates scenes that are almost sentimental in their richness and their joy, she never relinquishes the knowledge of this drumbeat that underlies all the festivity, all the joy, all the erotic love, the marital love, the children, is the presence of death. So here is her poem, In Media Vita. Streams of the spring a-singing, winds of the May that blow, birds from the southland winging, buds in the grasses below, clouds that speed hurrying over, and the climbing rose by the wall, singing of bees in the clover, and the dead under all. Lads and their sweethearts lying in the cleft of the windy sill, hearts that hushed of their sighing, lips that are tender and still, stars in the purple gloaming, flowers that suffuse and fall, twitter of birdmates homing, and the dead under all. Herdsman abroad with his collie, girls on their way to the fair, hot lads a-chasing their folly, parsons a-praying their prayer, children their kites a-flying, grandsires that nod by the wall, mothers soft lullabies sighing, and the dead under all. Thank you, Willa Cather. Thank you, National Willa Cather Center, and thank you all for listening.